Your daily 180 seconds of pure Bible study.
We're talking about a way that is right and cannot be wrong. Now, we can be deceived regarding this. You want an example of that? Go back to the book of Genesis. You may want to open your Bibles to Genesis chapter 2, 15 and 17, and we'll begin a discussion there about Adam and Eve. God lays down the way that is right. We see there in verse number 15, God places Adam in the garden. At this point, there is no Miss Eve. He places Adam in the garden and gives him the responsibility to tend the garden. And then he says to him, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Now, here Adam is given explicit instructions as to what he is to do. Later on, we find that God takes a rib from Adam and he fashions a woman, and this becomes his wife, Eve. And in Genesis chapter 3, we still see that they're in this wonderful paradise. And in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1, we have the serpent, Satan, who comes to Eve and says, No, God's way's not right. As a matter of fact, we read that the serpent said, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And Eve replies, and the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Now, the serpent deceived her, and he says to her, you'll be like God, and you'll know good and evil. And so in verse number 6, we read these words, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave it to her husband with her, and he ate. That seemed like a really good thing. It seemed like a way that could be right. But God had told them the way that was right and could not be wrong. And when they ate of that tree, their eyes were open, and they realized that they were naked. And then they were afraid of God, and ultimately they're separated from God. And in verse number 23 of Genesis 3, we see that they are taken from the garden, and that the garden is guarded, and they'll never re-enter. You see, friends, likewise, there's a way that's right for us, and it cannot be wrong. But rebelling against God is always wrong.